What's up? This is Dan Fradenburgh. I'm here today with Kate Bradley Churnis, CEO of a software service called Lately, like Janet Jackson and Eddie Murphy. What have you done for me lately? This show is called Figure It Out, and we have expert interviews on this show to discuss how to achieve success in any niche you find yourself in. And a lot of that requires a social media presence right now. And Kate is here to be awesome, but also explain how someone like you can milk your existing content for all it's worth, unless I've got it completely wrong. But one thing I like to do for our audience, because I believe one of the most important skills to become successful is to be able to introduce yourself. So it's actually pretty rad to hear people from all walks of life do that. So please introduce yourself, Kate.
Hi, thanks so much, Dan. I'm Kately from Lately. My team calls me Kately. So I'll tell you a quick tidbit that's of interest, which is I used to be a rock and roll DJ. So my last gig was broadcasting to 20 million listeners a day for XM satellite radio. And what's a, it was a wild ride. I married a rock star too, because job hazard, of course, but somehow I zigged and zagged to get to this job, which turns out to be a straight line now that you look back, right? Which is so interesting. So yeah, that's my intro. How's that?
That's pretty awesome. That's pretty awesome. But on this show, I get a lot of commercial real estate companies, that I end up working with, and they're scaling to send more than a million emails per month because, we would send over 5 million emails per month, like
Wow.
all the time. But they've been saying email is dead for like what, 7 years now. But it's clearly just one option. But your service can create email copy as well. Is that right?
So what we do is we actually take the email copy and we can transform it into social posts. So it's the other way around. Yeah.
Okay.
But coming soon, and I can give you a little sneak peek into the future too.
Then before we get to that, then let's just walk through what Lately does from a high level. So, a CEO who is no tech genius or something like that.
Yeah,
What would it
sure.
be
And
for them?
of course, like the shoemaker has no shoes, and I'm terrible at explaining our own thing, but I'll try. So Lately does two things. Number one, it unlocks your long form content like a email, like a newsletter, like a book, or a blog, or a web page, or a press release, right? Or videos just like this, podcasts, interviews, that kinds of things, any PR you might get. So we take that long form content and we actually study your social posts analytics instantly, and we look for the highest engaging posts that you've had, and then we build a word model based on what we know your customers are liking, retweeting, and commenting on. And then we take that word model and apply it to your long form content and blow it up into hundreds of social posts so you can promote it out to the end of time, right? So the social posts we create are already pre-vetted by the AI. So
Mhm.
we know they're the ones that your customers are going to engage with. Does that make sense?
Yeah, that does make perfect sense. That's really wild. So then, and if you want to get started with this software, you have to have some stuff, like some sort of content. And I want to make sure that anybody calls you isn't completely wasting their time. Like if there are some things that they have to have sorted out before they contact you, what are those things?
Yeah, great point, Dan, right? So we've learned that you do have to have some kind of long form content, a blog, a podcast, a video that you're regularly producing because you have this pain of wanting to unlock it, right? So what normally happens to content like this is it gets maybe a shout out or two on social, and then hopefully you link back to it somewhere, but a lot of people don't even do that. So there's that wasted time. So you have to have that pain of like, I'm wasting my content. But then also it tells us how active you are on social generally as well. So we look for at least 2 social accounts that you run and that you're regularly publishing across those accounts. So some key factors for us, right? That said though, Dan, we do give you the ability to take content that you don't create and still auto generate for it for like the advanced users. So like I don't do any content creation because I don't have time. I got 50 million houses on fire all the time, but I do stuff like this. And so I'm going to ask you for this file once we're done and run it through the AI brain and latelyify my own self, right?
Mhm.
Because why not?
So that means if I decide to curse or something like that, that's only actually going to be picked up by the AI if curse words resonate with your audience.
Yeah, 100%. So like we have a word cloud that'll like literally show you on a daily, weekly, monthly basis what those words are, and you can tell the AI to pay more attention or less attention, by the way.
Oh,
So
okay. Well, that's handy because like that's been part of my own social media strategy is knowing how nasty trolls can be. One
yeah.
thing that I did kind of fun that is I know some people who are into like black hat search engine optimization and things like that. And one of the things I was able to pick up from them just in their public announcements and me just reverse engineering it is if you flood the internet with your narrative, then saying like getting your like anything against the narrative actually heard is super duper difficult.
Hmm.
So what I did is I ended up getting Gilbert Gottfried to call me a motherfucker. And so pretty much anything bad that somebody's going to say about me is going to be drowned out by that. So, but but anyway, I hear if you've got access to a system like Lately, and that basically means that you'll have more content than you're ever going to need. And I hear a lot of influencers and online personalities talk about the importance of consistency. And this show here is about attention to detail because that's always been my get out of jail free card. And by that, I mean keeping my eyes peeled for important details. It never seems to let me down. So I spend lots of time concentrating on the details and the fundamentals. And I can think of two interpretations of the word consistency, and that's what I want to ask you about. One is to make sure that you as a person managing a social media presence. One is to make sure you put out content every week or something.
Mhm.
But another would mean that it has to be the same day of the week and at the same time of day. That would be another meaning of the word, making sure that you have consistency. It looks like Lately can help with both, but what can you say about that? Like what do you think these online personalities? Why are they stressing consistency? What do they actually mean?
Yeah, so let me take it a step further. So the key thing about consistency really is actually tone of voice, personality, and even language itself, Dan, right? So it's have a Coke and a smile, not have a Coke and a grin, right? Every single time. So that idea is essential because we've learned that the number one cause for loss of sales is loss of customer trust, and inconsistency breeds lack of trust. Right. And it's really simple to think about. If I go to your website and your URL at your website is dan.com, but the URL of your Twitter handle is danf, I might be like, do I have the wrong person? I'm not sure because I'm dumb and stuff's confusing, right? So it's pretty simple. So with the word cloud stuff and the AI that Lately uses, it really helps to, first of all, by the way, we give the humans an opportunity to collaborate with the AI multiple times throughout the use case through Lately. So it's really important because the AI will start to learn your voice on top of the content it auto generates,
Mm-hmm.
again, to help you get that consistency and then to help you be interesting, right? People are boring or they think themselves as boring amazingly. So finding that persona, the Gilbert Godfrey-ness, right, is a foreign thing to people. So we kind of help them do that. But then again, you're talking about the cadence is very important as well, right? So how frequently and how often. So one thing that's been changing, and this is pretty interesting, is we know quantity, right? So you have to put a lot out to get a lot. You have to scale. You have to pretend that you, an individual small business, are as big as Walmart, for example.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but also you have to do it with the quality, right? So the AI does the quality, and then the automation doing the quantity. With that quantity, by the way,
Mm-hmm.
we've learned. So remember, I was in radio, Dan.
Right.
So we used to play like the same song 300 times a week, hoping you'd hear it once, right?
Mm-hmm.
So you do have to put out hundreds of messages, but you don't want to do the same because the same one is annoying.
Mm-hmm.
So if I'm going to give you 40 social posts from this interview, every one of them, by the way, has a mini video clip of whatever cool thing you've said
Hmm.
paired up with it,
Hmm.
and you publish one a week every week for the next 40 weeks,
Hmm.
you've got legacy content that works for you forever,
Yeah.
right?
Right. Yeah, and it's just like getting royalties, except
Yeah.
except you own the whole thing that's being put out there, and you can get any message here. So that I think that's a pretty good idea as far as what Lately offers, and an idea why that's really important. And one thing, I know it's a little bit challenging, but I like to have equal parts cerebral stuff and stupidity in my shows. As I was going through.
Which have we done so far? Sorry.
Right. Well, we'll have to see. The comments I'm sure will let us know. But I saw your post yesterday saying that you had Apollo Ono, or
Oh no,
yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, Ono, okay, and you said that he's the most decorated U.S. male Winter Olympian of all time, and so since I'm calling you from Canada here, I wonder how that compares to Canadian Winter Olympics. Like, should we Google it? Like, what's the over under here? What do you like? What do you think? Canadian Winter Olympians most won by a single person. What do you think?
So I don't know. Like, do you mean like Canadian versus American
Well,
specifically?
yeah, sure. I guess it'd be. Do you think a Canadian once won more medals
Well,
than that, or do you think it's less, or what do you
oh,
think the
I don't know. I
ratio
mean, I'm
is?
just going by his Wikipedia page. It says that he's the most decorated winter Olympian. So he's got 8 medals total
Right.
as an individual. Is there someone who has more?
I don't know.
I don't know. Well, we'll find out. People will tell us. I can tell you what, I haven't met an Olympian quite as charming as him. Like
Nice.
when I was interviewing him, literally out loud, I was like, can you just say my name a few more times? Because he's so fabulous. Oh my
Good
God.
stuff. Good stuff. Yeah, I actually did check it up, and apparently the Canadian who won the most winter Olympic medals was also a speed skater.
Oh, wow.
Yep, it was a woman,
Cool.
and she had 6 medals.
6. Well,
So
that's
there you
pretty
go. So
freaking amazing.
USA, right?
But you know what? So, and Apollo is half Japanese, right? So,
Oh,
I mean,
okay.
we can't claim him 100%.
Yeah. I've always got, like talk. I like to make jokes because of this one client I had a while ago. He's opinionated, and he's well versed in his philosophy as well. So he knows his Derrida and his Foucault and all that kind of stuff. So anybody who just drops stuff like that into a conversation, it's going to be a little bit nuts. But once I had the audacity to use a decimal, and he reminded me that decimals are for communists.
You
Yeah.
know that the AI is going to grab the snippet, by the way.
Oh
Like,
yeah. Well, that's the nice thing is because I guess one most of the people who watch this are going to be thinking, how do I get more content out there? They might run into your service, and but they're like, okay, well, I just need to get my first, how many is it? Like 20 articles, 15 articles, 100 articles. How many does it really need to be? But what do people do with all their content once they've got that and they started using lately?
yeah, so you only need one piece to start. Like, more importantly is you have to have a social publishing history, because the AI has to learn first from your own practices. So that's more important. So if you've never published on social before, you're not our customer, right? But if you're just starting out and you've got 2 or 3 podcasts, Lately can take one right away. I mean, it's pretty easy. So we have customers like Gary V, for example, Gary Vaynerchuk. Gary obviously has mountains and mountains of content. So the more you push into the AI, the smarter it gets. He sees a 12,000% increase in engagement, 12,000%, because he has so much. But our normal customers, like normal, they're looking at about a 140 to 280% increase in engagement in the first 2 weeks, right? And
Mm-hmm.
to be really clear, it's because the AI is studying what your customers will engage with. So Dan, it's like Netflix, right? So
Mhm.
Netflix learns what you want to watch, and then it starts to feed you content based on the data, on the
Mhm.
model it builds. And then Netflix got really smart. Now it knows the recipe to what we all think is good content, and it started to create original content based on what it learned. And the original content, like The Crown, for example, is now the most watched on its platform. And this is that secret tidbit I was telling you before. So Lately is doing the same thing behind the scenes, right?
Mhm.
Because customers are asking these questions. How do I get better at the persona part? How do I have a more clear tone of voice? How do I address a real estate audience better? And the answer is Lately can have you push a button, literally, and the content will start to sound like that voice or that group of people you want to reach.
Hmm. Wow, that's really interesting, especially because well, I mentioned that this is Taiwan right there. So my second language is Mandarin, and so I know how to fix speech impediments, and I've also changed a ton of my linguistic habits just to help speakers of non-native speakers of English. Like one example I was using in a video yesterday is you could go through my entire body of work and you'll very rarely hear me use the word fast as an adverb.
Mm,
I'll always use quickly if it's
mm.
an adverb, and that's just because I know that it saves me a lot of headaches as far as, it's like, oh, wait a second, this is also an adjective and an
Right,
adverb,
right.
which
It's a
one is it
hard.
going to be? And so, like a lot of the things that you're describing that the AI does, I use I to
There you
do the
go.
same thing, right?
So, right. So this is the ideas of taking the best practices of a human, taking the pain in the ass out of it, and then giving you, the human, the opportunity to do the fun part, right? So what you're saying, Dan, by the way, is so interesting to me, because I was a rock and roll DJ, I talked for a living.
Hmm.
And I still talk for a living. I use Dragon Naturally Speaking. I don't type at all. So I hear what I say all the time. The theater of the mind is a wonderful, magical thing. It's what radio is based off of. And marketing is based off that, right? So it's my job to get what's in my head through the mic, through the medium, through the video, through the podcast, through the page, into your brain. And when it's a page or audio only, I get a little extra bonus because you're doing some work there in your brain, right? So what's cool is I was just listening to the words you were saying, quickly, fast, um, and thinking about like what that feels like to say. And so a lot of the things I tell my customers when they're adding to their social posts that we create, when they're adding some human touch, to read it out loud. Because if it feels awkward when you say it, it'll read awkward to another human. And so that's when you want to go in and put your little magic in there, right? And say, hey, AI, this is screwed up. Do it this way, you know?
That's interesting, especially because there's one thing I've been noticing more since I've been interviewing people, but it really clicked when I was writing my book, and that's the fact that people are really afraid that what they say or write won't actually make sense.
Right.
Now, what you just described, that was actually how I wrote my book as quickly as I did. I was basically done principal writing. It's 32,000 words. I was done principal writing in
Wow.
like 28 days, and
No
then
way.
I ended up having it actually published and having the audiobook version done in a month and a half from after
Rockin'.
I put in my first page. And there were some tricks to that. And one of them was knowing that the editing process, reading it out loud, is one of the best ways to do that. So I was like, well, I've got a podcasting microphone. I'm going to be recording it anyway. So might as well edit it and record the audio book at the exact same time. Right.
Brilliant. Yep.
So that's exactly what I ended up doing. And but back to the question that I had here, I think so many people are afraid of that what they say or write won't actually make sense,
Mm,
and I think that you have to get over that with more writing. But
true.
tell me more again about what you can do with lately to make sure that the stuff the AI spits out makes sense as well as is
Yeah,
valuable.
so that's a great question. It's so one of our customers, Phil Treadwell, he's a mortgage expert. So he took a blog, pasted it into Lately, and the social posts that came out were not very good. And so he assumed that his blog was bad, and he went and rewrote the blog and then pushed it back through. So he reverse engineered the AI, which is
Yeah.
so interesting, because like I said, it's garbage in, garbage out. So
Right.
he's like, oh wow. So that's one way, by the way, which pretty cool, huh?
Yeah,
Um,
that's
you know,
intense.
those word clouds, by the way, end up becoming very powerful. So before you sit down to write something, you, our customers, and I do, we go to the word clouds first and we see exactly what words, what phrases are resonating with this audience. And you can parse them by all kinds of means, per social channel, per campaign, per theme, whatever you want. But the idea is, when you know what your audience cares about, why the hell wouldn't you want to use it everywhere, in every instance, right? So before
Right.
you write a sales email, just see, for example, we don't care what Twitter says is trending hashtags, because
Hmm.
I have a word cloud that'll tell me what hashtags are trending with my customers, right?
Right.
That's what matters.
Right. That's way more important. Yeah.
Context is everything, and that's a big thing that I think people forget about. So they'll write knowing that they know exactly what they're talking about, but they forget that I don't know. So they have to constantly reseat me at the table, right? So that's a big one, to just really think about, like, every paragraph, and especially social media is so easy because it's just little small bits.
Hmm.
But I see people making this mistake all the time. And by the way, a hashtag can do that for you. A hashtag can instantly put everybody at the same table just by saying, like, pro tip or podcast, or some kind of easy way to let me know what this whole thing is. Just give me a summary word. So I think that's pretty handy trick to think about when you're looking to make more sense, if that's helpful.
Yeah, it is. And I was just watching your face there and I'm going like, "Oh, that's some good radio experience," because I was watching those laser beams. I don't know if you were thinking the same hashtags that I was, but I'm going like, "Is she going to say it? Is she going to do it?" Is she like, it's like, yeah, yeah, you're gonna walk yourself right into those ones and make it political by accident? No, she's
No.
a radio pro. Good on
No,
you.
no.
Yeah, that
But
was
so,
another sorry, that was another thing about figure it out. It's called
oh
figure it
yeah, yeah.
out because you're supposed to figure out that I can literally go on this long and even discuss the most controversial things I can think about without slipping up.
That's
Okay.
incredible,
And,
Dan.
and so since I watched you do it live, I'm like, bing, good on you. Good stuff. That's really
Well,
cool.
normally I do put both feet right in there, but sometimes I manage to rein it in. So one of our customers, David Allison, he took his first book, by the way, and ran it through Lately, and released it on a Monday. And by noon, he was #1 on Amazon's best-selling global list, because we gave him the ability to stop wasting $3,000 a month on social media people that were writing stuff that he thought was crappy, and he had to correct it all the time.
Right.
And it was just quoting the books, right? The AI was finding the best quotes of the book.
Wow, that's amazing.
Yeah,
Wow.
it is amazing. And one more thing I want to share with you, because funnel guy, which I think is pretty cool. So I'm really interested in the sales cycle, and in SaaS particularly, so software as a service, for folks who don't know. There's been a long-standing model, which is like, you have a bank of SDRs, smile and dial all day long, blah, 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 right? And then they capture you, and then they move you through that funnel. And so for years, we tried to fit in that model, and finally said this.
Yeah.
And now we only use Lately
Mhm.
to market Lately, nothing else. No paid ads, no cold calls, no cold emails. And not only do we have a 98% trial to sale conversion rate, because the AI is smart AF, right? It
Hmm.
learns what customers want to read, watch, or hear. So you're warm already by the time I get you,
Right.
right?
Right. Right. Yeah, that's really brilliant. That's really brilliant.
And again, we do give humans quite a lot of control, and we very much insist on it, because we believe, Dan, that A human alone is awesome, and AI alone is awesome, and that's, 1 and 1. But humans plus AI is 1 plus 1 equals 3, right? So
Hmm.
together it's better. And the reason is because the emotional piece, right? So um, robots can't replicate a hug through a Zoom call, but I sure can. You
Hmm.
know, you
Hmm.
can too.
Yeah.
So it's really essential that that piece comes across. I think, though, what you're saying is a couple of things. Number one, when you are writing, whether it's short form like social media or long form like a book, first of all, vomit it out. The second thing you should do is edit. So your edit to writing time or vomiting time should be 4 to 1.
Hmm.
Know that the editing is going to be the place where you're going to be living and moving things around. An easy trick that I love, and you can apply this to every sentence or paragraph that you write, which is don't bury the lead. And everybody does that naturally, especially when you're vomiting it out. You're trying to set it up. And chances are that first or second sentence, just 86 that thing. It's a waste of time. The meat is coming. You got to it later, right? Because school taught you to set everybody up, right? Everybody did that first, your opening paragraph, right?
Right.
So we don't live like that anymore. And you can do that, I find often, even in a sentence itself, that the first 2 or 3 words are wasted. And right in the beginning, there is some kind of verb, right? We were talking about verbs earlier. That's going to be compelling and companion. And if you start the sentence with the verb, it is a command. Listen to me, right? Whatever it is,
Hmm.
that'll move the reader along more quickly, and also make you, the writer, more in control and gain that trust on the other end, right? Which is
Hmm.
what you want to be the expert.
Right, right. And I was just thinking that one trick that that's helped me, or one experience that's helped me achieve that, would be working with kids, because it's a world of non sequiturs. And
Totally.
so the idea is it's just like advertising or subject lines in emails. It's just like what will actually grab your attention, because it's, you know, latest forecasts on 22 or 2020 foreclosure rates. You know, it's just
Blah.
yeah, yeah, exactly. It's just like that's not gonna give. It's like, you know, like but you know, I uploaded myself in my pants. It's like, you know what? Let's check that one out. But
I mean, the process is really simple, by the way, Dan. You just
mhm,
upload a file into Lately, like that, a video file, and we will automatically transcribe the file. And so now we have the text, and then the AI applies and you can edit the text before the AI looks at it if you wanted to. That's fine
mhm,
too. So you could take out the things that you didn't want the world to see, or that you don't want the AI to be examining.
right.
And then it'll start doing its magical thing and pairing those video clips up together, right? It's a
Mhm.
little less complicated with the blog. With the blog, you just paste the URL, push a button, and it goes. But the video takes a little more time because it has to, transcribe it. Um,
Okay.
so yeah, we can, it's fun. I mean,
Yeah.
we find people, it's a game actually. So like they do press auto generate a lot because they want to see, what
Right.
it's coming up for.
So thank you very much for joining us today. I won't hold you up anymore, but yeah, it's
You're not
we'll
holding me
definitely be in
up.
touch.
It was a delight to
All
speak
right.
with you
Thank
and
you.
learn from
Thank you.
you.
I don't know how much you looked me up
I did a little
before.
bit.
Yeah, yeah, a little bit. Okay, because basically the more you dig, you know, that rabbit hole goes pretty deep. And